AI CEOs have made some big promises.
Solving global poverty, or how do we make everyone a very high standard of living? I think the only way to do this is AI and robotics.
Mostly, that an AI future will provide tools for humanity to flourish.
And we want to build tools that make it so that new people can create better art. I believe very deeply that humans will be at the center of that.
But which portion of humanity are they talking about? Now, it's really tempting to say that all companies care about are profits. And sure, they do care about profits. But if we look closer, there's a specific kind of profit they're chasing. One that explains why AI has become so irresistible. To see exactly what companies find important, we can turn to quarterly reports and quarterly predictions. These set expectations and determine whether or not executives can start popping bottles of champagne. There are plenty of metrics, but for the purposes of this video, we'll focus on just a few that pertain to shareholders. First, revenues and sales. How much is a product or service being bought? How much revenue is it generating? Are all quotas being met? How efficient is the team at converting potential customers into actual sales? Expenses and costs. This measures how much money they're spending to keep the whole operation afloat. We're talking training, employees, benefits, salaries, office rental, all of it. Profitability and margins. Arguably, what this all boils down to, how much money have they made after all is said and done to spend however they please. Meeting and preferably beating these predictions signals to management that their strategies are working. Even if raw profits are low in the short term, breaking down these metrics into quarterly blocks allows for accurate measurement of real change. It creates incentives to drive improvement after each change is observed. Now, as companies grow, they need to assess their will they be able to handle increased demand while maintaining good performance, reliability, and efficiency, all the while keeping costs from increasing proportionally? Companies tend to avoid direct labor per customer business models, leading them to employ cost-saving techniques that shrink the proportion of hires per user or customer. Each human can only serve a set number of people a day. Renting out artificial intelligence compute, they can serve much more with less cost, depending on the type of work. If we take a look at NVIDIA's revenue trends, we can see that their earnings from data centers alone from the second quarter of 2024 to their most recent 2026 quarter have quadrupled from 10 billion to roughly 40 billion, with their biggest customers being Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, which then rents their compute to other companies. What this signals to me is that we are in the beginning stages of artificial intelligence becoming a permanent fixture in corporate infrastructure, waiting for more advanced, independent, agentic AIs to take on more roles and responsibilities. And here's the key. The scalability metric makes it attractive to employ cost-saving devices by removing human development from the equation. Under a free market capitalist economic structure, performance metrics are what determine whether a company is good or not. As American economist Milton Friedman argued, in his own words, the businessmen believe that they are defending free enterprise when they declaim that
business is not concerned merely with profit, but also with promoting desirable social ends. That business has a social conscience and takes seriously its responsibilities for providing employment, eliminating discrimination, avoiding pollution, the catchwords of the contemporary crop of reformers. In fact, they are, or would be, if they or anyone else took them seriously,
preaching pure and unadulterated socialism. It's the moral responsibility of managers to act in the best interest of shareholders. Any positive engagement with social welfare is a byproduct of the prime directive, increase in shareholder wealth. So improvements in human development were a byproduct, one that exists as long as human intellect is inseparable from success metrics. If you wanted higher KPIs in thought-dominated white-collar jobs, you needed well-trained human beings. Dario Amodei, CEO of Anthropic, has explicitly stated that half of all entry-level white-collar jobs could be wiped out. And with AI being a powerful engine for scalability and efficiency, companies are under enormous pressure to adopt the technology or risk being displaced by competition. Now, this concept that I'm outlining isn't anything new. Industrialization has displaced many groups of people, with a famous example being the Luddites. People may argue that with every innovation that makes work easier, new kinds of jobs will emerge. And this was true with manual and repetitive tasks that created an explosion of cognitive white-collar jobs. But what artificial intelligence does is remove cognitive tasks from human hands, or human brains rather, that are necessary building blocks to higher tiered thinking. This is what skill transfer pipelines used to look like. A senior supervises a junior who's been hired to help offload some of their work. In this pipeline, the junior makes mistakes and learns from the senior, until eventually they become seniors themselves. But this landscape is becoming unrecognizable. Juniors are studying, and it's unclear whether they'll even get hired given the sheer amount of AI cutbacks and competition they're facing. It isn't about, are you good at your task anymore, or are you good at your craft? It's looking more like, how good are you at leveraging AI tools to be efficient and outsource your labor? And as a result, seniors either offload work directly onto artificial intelligence, or offloads to a junior who then offloads to artificial intelligence. And this dislocation has begun to erode key pillars of human development and agency. Creativity requires a solid understanding of the problem, a broad array of ideas to combine, and raw materials for divergent thinking. Sitting down with a problem and letting it attach itself to other ideas. AI does allow people to expand their creativity by providing research tools, gathering sources, and even stress testing ideas. Artificial intelligence can even encourage an explosion of autodidacts, otherwise known as self-learners. But AI as it stands in the workforce is not in the business of asking you deeper questions so you can learn more about your subject. There are quotas to meet. You get incentivized to hit those quotas, and actually learning comes as a necessity when things fall outside the scope of current AI capabilities that increase after every update. The offloading of necessary creative tasks degrades the muscle of creativity, and a person needs the possibility to be creative. Your brain is not engaged in the same way as when you painstakingly go from point A to point B with your own mind. Watching someone cook can help you learn how to cook, but you also need to do the actual cooking. Learning disciplines of the chosen craft and actually practicing them leads to enough knowledge to know how to creatively combine and to creatively break the rules. And in this continuous process of learning, failing, and playing, we eventually find ourselves arriving at a point where most of the technical skills and knowledge we've acquired become second nature. We are free to juggle things of greater complexity. We eventually arrive at AI undermines this as well by making it difficult to achieve real technical proficiency and ingrained knowledge. The mastery pipeline has already been severed, with entry-level jobs being put in danger. But it gets even worse. The hard-earned work of people who achieved mastery is being used as training data. They're being used as fossil fuel for the capabilities of AI. And when this mastery becomes training data, human employees will no longer be needed to do this work. Our biological systems are wired to find work meaningful. The feeling of progressing, accomplishing, and over time achieving mastery of an area or craft that we love, this is something that we yearn for. And it may not feel like it at the time, but we feel most fulfilled when we engage in work that's at an appropriate level of difficulty for us and feels like it contributes to something that we believe in. Destroying these pipelines for real development of skills makes people mere appendages for input into a machine. They become sense organs of a system that thinks and creates for them. And most of all, it alienates us from feeling like we're a part of our work. When labor is something to be optimized into oblivion, I believe that this hurts us in the long run. Artificial intelligence can be a powerful tool to use for self-learning. The competitive job marketplace does not incentivize this. Now, here's one thing that I want you to notice. The next time you're using an artificial intelligence, are you asking it to do something for you? Or are you asking it to help you so that you can learn how to do it yourself? And with that, I know you have a lot of choices of channels to watch. I sincerely thank you for your time. Much love and have a good day.